It's 7:42 p.m. Your phone is face up on the table. You're not working, but you're watching it. You learned from watching what happened to people who didn't respond. The first to act gets remembered. Those who don't respond are quietly noted. This central fact is stated early to guide your understanding.
Work-life balance is framed as a personal discipline. However, career advancement often demands.
The system promotes balance publicly, yet operationally rewards the opposite. This contradiction exists sincerely within the messaging recruits you, but once inside, incentives govern you. The gap between them is where your evenings go. Some workplaces genuinely structure for sustainable work, but many do not. The explanation for this gap is often wrong.
This isn't an argument that work is bad or ambition is destructive. It's about a more precise, systemic argument.
The system doesn't require bad people to produce this outcome. It only requires rewards to flow consistently in one direction. Competent, reliable people hit a wall, exhausted despite doing everything correctly. Then the internal audit begins. They review the evidence, every deadline met, every urgent message answered, never the bottleneck. Still running on empty.
Right?
So the problem must be personal. The mornings, the inability to switch off, a prioritization failure.
This conclusion is psychologically predictable. When you can only control yourself, you diagnose yourself first. An entire industry confirms that diagnosis. Calendar systems, resilience frameworks, and morning routines optimized by experts.
These products aren't fraudulent, they help you carry more weight efficiently. What they don't do is reduce the weight.
When organizations frame burnout as a regulation problem, it becomes yours to solve. Tools treat the person, but the load remains. Workplaces officially reward results, quality, and collaboration. But operationally, they reward availability and absorbing unassigned work. Performance during crises, when leadership is watching, is also rewarded. Think about what this looks like at ground level. Quick questions consume 40 minutes, calendars fill before actual work. Meetings spawn more meetings for the same decisions.
No time to work! The person who fixed a mistake that wasn't theirs now gets called for every similar error. Nobody assigned them that role.
This role accumulated through reliability. The unwritten rule. Reliability becomes permanent responsibility.
We'll continue this tomorrow, Hedda, same group.
Competence increases workload faster than compensation. The system produces this automatically when incentives are arranged this way.
Report gone wrong, fixed it alone, again. You become the fallback, which becomes your job. If 6 high performers can do 9 people's work, the organization operates with 6.
Donald?
Looks like the copier's broken again. Donald will sort that out.
Not through a meeting, but through met deadlines and optimized budgets. With no signal, the load exceeds capacity.
Lean staffing is the output of financial pressure. When capable people absorb more, the consequence lands at home.
Evenings don't decompress. Weekends don't restore. Vacations are spent with a phone that never fully goes dark.
The workload expands to the most capable, who absorb the most. This is where corporate wellness programs enter.
They deserve precision, not dismissal. Mental health resources help people, and access to counseling matters.
The problem isn't their existence, but what they substitute for. Organizations respond to stress with emotional regulation, not capacity redesign.
It addresses the symptom while the condition continues. Organizations add identity language like family culture or team player. Overextension becomes a loyalty signal. Pulling back feels like abandonment, not self-protection.
Individuals prop up organizations because they're reliable, and they've internalized that reliability as identity.
Companies promote balance to compete for talent, reduce turnover, and sustain output.
Balance is an aspirational promise, but the operational system cannot honor it due to missing structural conditions.
What about Donald? He always figures it out.
Yeah.
This is the proof. The contradiction between messaging and incentives is a stable feature, not a bug. The cost of this gap falls entirely on the people. The system works, just not for you. Real balance is structural, not a personality trait. It requires staffing to prevent single points of failure, realistic deadlines, and protected time off visibly modeled by leadership.
Performance evaluation should measure output, not just presence. Role boundaries must be honored in practice, not just during onboarding.
Organizations with these conditions achieve balance. Those without see it individually attempted and structurally eroded.
They need to reduce turnover, maintain morale, sustain output. The difference isn't in value statements, but who gets promoted for leaving at 5 p.m. Here's what to do.
First, diagnose your environment. Is it fixable or extractive?
2 signals reveal your environment. Who gets promoted? Do they model limits or signal unlimited availability?
Talk to HR about that, Tara, not my department.
Watch what happens when someone pushes back on an unreasonable request. Is it a real conversation or just a performance of flexibility?
These data points are more reliable than any policy. Second, stop silently absorbing invisible labor. When you solve problems not formally yours, make it visible. Document what you are carrying. Make trade-offs explicit to those responsible to your workload. If they can't see the load, they'll assume there's room for more.
Invisible competence is treated as available capacity. Third, clarify before accepting urgent tasks. Ask for precedence when conflicts arise.
This forces the organization to make decisions it delegated to your anxiety. It's accountability, not resistance. Fourth, build external leverage, transferable skills, external reputation, and a professional network independent of your title.
Leverage makes negotiation and viable exit possible. Without it, your options are limited to offered terms and silence. Fifth, if the environment is extractive and those in power benefit, begin quiet, parallel exit planning without drama.
In some systems, trying harder worsens the problem. The workload expands to match your available capacity.
Good weekend? It was fine. Optimizing yourself for a non-reciprocating system isn't growth. It's accommodation with a better morning routine.
Every choice you made was rational. When you answered that message at 7:42 p.m., you knew the cost of answering and not answering.
Staying on the call modeled availability as reputation. Absorbing extra projects meant responding to real incentives.
You weren't bad at balance. You operated where balance was expensive. Here's why it felt like failure.
Of GH.
The system needed you to believe the problem was yours. If you understood the exhaustion was structural, you might stop absorbing it.
Feedback was calibrated through productivity culture, wellness messaging, and performance reviews to point the explanation inward.
Every choice you made was rational. When you answered that message at 7:42 p.m., you knew the cost of answering and not answering.
Staying on the call modeled how availability translates to reputation. Absorbing extra projects meant responding to real incentives.
You weren't bad at balance. You operated in an expensive environment and paid the price. Here's why it felt like failure.
The system needed you to believe the problem was yours. If you understood the exhaustion was structural, you might stop absorbing it.
You were one of the best we had, Donald. Appreciate it. Feedback was calibrated through productivity culture, wellness messaging, and performance reviews to point the explanation inward.
Every choice you made was rational. Answering that message at 7:42 p.m. meant understanding the cost of both actions. Staying on the call modeled how availability translates to reputation. Absorbing extra projects meant responding to real incentives.
Good first week. Get some rest. You weren't bad at balance. You operated in an expensive environment and paid the price. Here's why it felt like failure. Always available. Just had to ask. The system needed you to believe the problem was yours. If you understood the exhaustion was structural, you might stop absorbing it.
Feedback was calibrated through productivity culture, wellness messaging, and performance reviews to point the explanation inward.